Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me say at the onset, Representative Hunter, that I have tremendous respect and admiration for you and for your years of service in this chamber. But I must also say with equal candor that I am deeply disappointed. I am disappointed in the willingness to mask the racial realities of this map underneath the guise of partisanship. Courts have been clear. Partisanship is not a license to engage in racial discrimination. It wasn't until today that I more fully appreciated what Dr. King wrote in 1963, sitting in a Birmingham jail, expressing his frustration with the moderates of his time. He said that shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection. Representative Hunter, you have criticized my colleagues and I for breaking quorum to protest and to draw attention to these maps that deliberately sideline minorities from the political process. But as Dr. King reminded us, there are those who are more devoted to order than to justice, who prefer the absence of tension than to the presence of truth. I took time away not to avoid my duty, but to better understand the real implications of these maps on the people I serve in a district that is majority Hispanic, and on the more than 11 million Texans who look just like them. Their voices deserve to be heard and deserve to count the same as anyone else's. But let's focus on the congressional districts before us. It was mentioned that the underlying goal was simply to improve Republican performance, and Representative Hunter relied on the lawyers to draw the lines. But any fair reading of this map shows what it actually does. It systematically dilutes Latino and Black voting strength while cementing and increasing Anglo control. Any claim to the otherwise is either misunderstanding the racial realities of this map or is deliberately misrepresenting the truth, and neither approach is worthy of this chamber. We have not seen a map this deliberately engineered by skin color since the days that brought Americans to march from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama in the 1960s. Marches to protest laws designed to sideline Black voters, marches that helped to bring about the Voting Rights Act just months later. Today, Hispanic and white Texans each make up about 40% of our state's population, equal in number. But under the proposed map, 26 of the 38 congressional districts, 70% of our entire state's congressional delegation will be controlled by white majority districts. You cannot say you found a way for one racial group that is 40% of our state's population to have 70% political control in this state and say that the racial disparities are merely coincidental. 45 years ago, Anglo-Texans made up 66% of our state's population. Today, that number is 40%. Yet your map freezes white political control as if the demographics in this state have not changed at all in the last 50 years. And somehow, in the 10 hours it takes to drive from my district in El Paso to yours, Representative Hunter, on the coast, across this vast and diverse state, your lawyers somehow managed to draw non-racial lines that will leave your party representing 90% of one race. And in case if your lawyers didn't advise you, it's not Hispanics or Blacks. Why does your party want to represent 90% of white Texans, but not 90% of Texas Hispanics or Blacks? Because this map has methodically carved and segregated those populations to ensure they cannot influence elections in those 26 white-controlled districts. Here is the cold, hard truth. Under this map, white Texans receive one member of Congress for every 445,000 residents. If you're Hispanic, it takes about 1.4 million residents for that same representation. If you are Black, it takes 2 million. In this proposal, a Hispanic Texan has 1/3 the political value of a white Texan under this plan, and a black Texan 1/5. It would take 3 Hispanics to equal the representation of 1 white Texan and 5 black Texans to equal the value of 1 white Texan. Under these lines, Texas Hispanics will be the most underrepresented population group in all 50 states. The level of underrepresentation will far exceed what even conservative courts have struck down in Louisiana, Alabama, and just yesterday in Mississippi. And yet, when confronted with these facts, a common distraction from proponents of this map is to point a finger at California or Illinois and to say, everyone does it. But no Democratic map in California or Illinois systematically erases representation for a population that is 60% of this state. This map is an abomination. It is shameful. What kind of society are future generations of Texas Hispanic and black children going to grow up in where their government doesn't feel accountable to them? Where they've drawn the lines where they are only accountable to another group based solely on the color of their skin. All Americans, all Texans, whether Republican or Democrat, black, white, or Hispanic, should be appalled at what's happening here today. That our government is wanting a map where it would not be held accountable to the majority of the residents in its state, but to the ones that it hand selects, and in this case, by race. Mr. Speaker, I voted for you. Despite our vast political differences, I know you care about this institution and the way that we do business to serve the people of Texas with fairness. But, Mr. Speaker, we all took an oath to uphold the Constitution, not to flagrantly violate it or to test its limits. This is shameful what is happening here, Mr. Speaker, and with this map, I can no longer in good conscience continue to support you.